I'm Tim Benson. I am a portrait artist and I'm also the Vice President of the Royal Institute of Oil Painters. I'm here today to give a brief talk about the Motherhood exhibition at the Lots Road, by the Lots Road group rather, at the Chelsea Gallery on the King's Road. Now the Lots Road group is comprised of artists, a number of portrait painters actually, who all studied together at the Heatherley School of Fine Art in Chelsea. They are portrait artists that have come together through the formation of this group to create a dynamic, exciting atmosphere where they can actually really bounce ideas off each other and produce telling, exciting portraiture. This is the exhibition that they put together called Motherhood, which is all about, as you might imagine from the title, motherhood, in anticipation of Mother's Day coming up at the end of this month. Each artist has one portrait in the show of their mother, and we'll take you around and have a talk about them. In conjunction with this exhibition, they brought out an absolutely lovely publication, which is produced by Blurb, showing paintings involved in the exhibition, information about the paintings, brief synopsis, and information about the artist. Okay, so let's move on and have a look. So firstly, we've got a painting of Susie, who's the mother of Martin Burrows. Now this painting it's wonderful in its directness of gaze. It's very, very engaging to the viewer. It's quite flat paint, but brought together in a way that really does show form. You're not losing the form because the paint isn't very thick. It's skillfully handled, very adept indeed. The background is very, very blue, and it could be incongruous to the rest of the painting, but actually it works very, very well here. It's extremely well balanced, and frames the painting very, very well indeed. Lovely piece of work. Moving on to Stella's work, entitled Mum and Me. Stella in the background, mother in the foreground. This is an altogether more, it's a piece of work that is more about the moment. It's a slightly less formal interpretation of the portrait, with quite robust handling of paint, thicker in areas, showing a very, very great degree of modelling. Loose interpretation, but no less impactful for it. It's very, very nice and very well handled, good colours, lovely piece, very sensitive, and a wonderful, I think it'll be a wonderful engagement with the viewer and a lovely expression in the face. Coming on to Elizabeth's portrait of her mother Alice. This is an altogether lower key portrait. It is a more restrained palette that's a direct, correlated directly with the sort of washed out light that you have up in Aberdeenshire in winter where this was painted, where Elizabeth's mother lives. It's a very, very painterly approach, beautiful balance, and yeah, it's a moment, the mother's reading, deep in concentration. I think that's reflected perfectly. A sensitive piece, very well done. Moving on to Sarah's piece. This is an altogether more robust interpretation of the portrait, using impasto paint in areas, palette knife, basically a mixed approach, so brushwork reinforced with palette knife work. In fact, actually, the palette is quite muted, but together you still manage to get quite a sense of strength of light and dark. It's actually a strong piece of work with a wonderful expression, absolutely wonderful, really very nice indeed, and of its time. Coming on to Nikolas' painting of Honour, it's got an altogether more ethereal feel to it. There's almost like a sort of halo in the background. It's a sensitive piece of work with more considered mark making, so smaller marks, but not compromising on structure. It's very, very balanced. And again, similar to Martin's piece of work, you feel that it might suffer from the blue being very, very strong, but actually it doesn't. It's balanced. It all links in very well indeed. And coming to the only self-portrait in the exhibition, this is Colleen's interpretation of the portrait. So we've got Colleen in the foreground, photographic reference in the background, her mother, her giving well, not giving life, but her and her newly born daughter, and then her daughter with her newly born child, so it spans the generations, and holding in her hand a photograph of perhaps the next generation. Who knows? It's up to us to interpret. Again, loose handling of paint, beautiful, beautiful imagination, and very well done indeed. Coming on to Mark's painting of his mother playing bridge. This is a very, very, very small, very personal little portrait. And I think it's a delightful little piece, actually, using loose, impressionistic mark making, reinforced in areas by thicker paint. So take a look at the ear, you can see the impasto technique there. Absolutely lovely, a warm glow and deep in concentration. I really hope she had a good hand. Coming on to Christine's portrait, this actually tells a story because Christine painted his mother both before and after she died. So it's a lot of emotional attachment with this particular piece. It's wonderful. It's a very direct gaze, very open expression, with a lot of detail in areas actually, and then less detail in the background to really bring the face and the head into prominence, and a wonderful engaging expression. You really feel at one with this particular person. Moving on to Viviana's portrait, this is what I would call a more, well, quote-unquote society piece of work. It is a formal piece of work. The sitter is, well, standing, not sitting, looking down at the viewer slightly. There's a real feeling of sort of dignity and strength. Muted palette, muted chromatic balances in the clothes, and similarly in the head. But wonderful, luminous, sort of luminousness. And it's very nice indeed. Quite a classical interpretation of the portrait. Very well done. And coming on to Sarah Jane's piece, we are a polar opposite of Viviana's in terms of technique. This is a large, visceral piece of work using thick impasto paint. I suppose if one had to liken this to any particular artist, there would be elements of Freud in there. It's all about the physicality of the form, the fleshiness of a piece of work. However, it still manages to retain a real sensitivity, as you can probably see in the expression in the eyes. It's a very human piece of work, and as such, it's extremely successful. It tells a story.